Jim, am I supposed to hear this?
And good evening, basketball fans, and welcome to the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinicropi here in studio with my co-host Matt Verkey, as well as Lyons head coach Zac Young. I do hope you'll stay with me for the next half hour because we have a great show on tap. We'll recap all the holiday tournament action in the Wayne Finger Lakes. We'll catch up with Ted Baker, and we'll give you our Players of the Week. And stay tuned as we release the latest edition of our FL1 Sports Upstate Hoops Wayne Finger Lakes Power Rankings and the Girls Super 6 rankings at the end of the show. The Upstate Hoops podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Check out their mobile banking app and visit them online at mygenbank.com. And by Dr. Rod Littlejohn, over 30 years of smiles with style. And by Red's Place, the best lunches around are in downtown Seneca Falls. Check out the menu at menshalloffame.com. Well, as I mentioned, Zac Young's in studio with us tonight. Welcome, Zac. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
And Verk's back up here, per usual. Verk, how's it going?
Good. Merry Christmas, Jim.
Yeah, light week, fellas, on the hardcore. Zac, I don't think you played all week, did you? You didn't even have a game.
We did not.
And we had a couple holiday tournaments. And but yeah, light week and another light week this week before we get hot and heavy in 2015. But I have holding on the line right now, voice of Finger Lakes Radio Sports, Ted Baker. Ted, happy holidays.
Well, same to you guys. Great to be back and looking forward to the full schedule kicking in here in the next couple of weeks.
And Ted, you had a light week too, no games. So we're going to kind of jump ahead and look at where you're going to be this week. A couple of girls' games on the schedule.
Yeah, we have, and actually I'm not doing the one tomorrow night because I got called away for hockey duty again, but Craig Simmons will be at Minders Academy. Minders girls hosting Marcus Whitman. They've lost a couple of games, but I heard you guys talking a little bit before you went on the air, and we talked last week about how well the Minders girls are doing. I mean, a team that won 3 and 4 games the last 2 years, but then blew through their Class C opposition, making some noise. They took Geneva right to the limit this week.
Yeah, and the so those are a couple key games in the East, and Verk, we talked about starting out the Super 6 girls rankings to go with our Wayne Finger Lakes boys power rankings, and both those teams I assume are going to be in the top 6.
Yeah, they both are. I think in the local girls, it's dominated by the Finger Lakes East. I think the Wayne County League is a little bit down this year, and of course you got Romulus out in the West, who's come off a state championship and got a 20-something game win streak going. So you can never count Romulus out either.
Ted, if you were making the Super 6 girls rankings, what would it be?
Boy, well, it's hard for me a little bit because I don't see all of the teams, but I think, like Verk said, you got to have Geneva and Minders in there. Romulus is showing no signs of letting up from last year. They're still unbeaten. The Mid-Lakes girls are doing pretty well this year. That's one surprise on the upside. One surprise to me is that the Palmac girls are just 1-3 and 1-3 in the league. That's I don't know who all they've played. I assume they must have played the teams at the top, but I'm a little bit surprised by that. I thought they'd be, and I think they will be a better team than that as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think Palmac actually has lost to – their only win was against Minders in a close game for the girls, and they lost to Mid-Lakes, who, like Ted said, is, they're undefeated in the league. I think they're undefeated overall, and, Mid-Lakes is maybe the second-best team in the Finger Lakes behind Geneva. But I think – Palmac's kind of fallen into. They had a really tough schedule to start out. They've lost to Geneva. I think they lost to Wayne and Mid-Lake. So they've played all the top teams already, and all close games, but weren't able to pull any of those out except for the Minders game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things this time of year. It's always the standings can be a little bit deceptive because you don't, unless you take into account who's played who. I mean, you can look at a team that has a couple of losses, but maybe they came against the 2 best teams in their league.
Sure.
So, Ted, where are you going to be this week then, and the game times and channels?
All right, right, first is tomorrow night. We've got the Minders girls hosting Marcus Whitman. That's a 7:30 tip-off on WGVA. And then on Saturday, there's a holiday tournament at Wayne, and the Geneva girls will take on Pittsford Mendon. It's always good to see how they do against the big suburban schools because, of course, that's who they meet when it comes time for sectionals. So that'll be a good game for them. That's Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock on WGVA.
All right, Ted. Well, thanks again for joining us. It's cutting it short this week because there's not much action, and but we'll be back with you next Sunday night, and we'll be listening to you on the air.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Ted.
See you, Ted.
Yeah, there it is, a short version of Radio Roundball Roundup this week. But I can't wait till we get into the schedule and we get some reports on a bunch of games that that we're anticipating but not able to get there in person. Like a lot of the games that were played this week during the holiday week, maybe the biggest surprise of the week came in Prattsburg, where Naples went ahead and beat Early College in the first round and then beat Prattsburg in the finals. And I think that puts them at 6-0. Naples is at 6-0, and Zach, they're in your class.
They are. That's, to me, the best win by a local team so far. Out of conference or out of their league, and one that I know not. I wouldn't say it surprised me, but yeah, I guess it did surprise me. Most people were, coaches that I ran into. Hey, you see Naples beat Early College. That's a huge win for them, and they're off to a good start. I know they've had a couple guys that have been playing together. Isaiah Tilley, you've heard about for about the last 3-4 years. So I definitely marked down an extra date or two on my scouting schedule to check out Naples. I'm going down January 7th.
You're going down to Naples?
I'm going to Naples. To Naples. HAC plays at Naples.
Oh, a good opportunity to.
So I will be there January 7th. Anybody wants to take the ride with me?
I mind. I'm a big Green Machine fan. Yeah. Coach Mick Salter, legendary coach down in Naples. We have him on the schedule against South Seneca in January, Verk, but it'd be interesting to see too where they fall in our power rankings this week.
Yeah, they're a team who over the last couple of years they've done well in the Finger Lakes West. A couple years ago they had a really good team, and I think they ended up I think they got crushed by Clyde in sectionals at one point.
They lost in the semis 2 years ago.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah,
and so I'm sure they're a team. Like we talked about, some of those players they were sophomores back then, and I'm sure that their sophomore year didn't end as planned. Now they're seniors and ready to make a run for the West title in that Class C3.
The other big action in Red Jacket, big holiday tournament featuring Geneva and Minders and Red Jacket, and then RCMCS. Still not sure, Zach, who that is. You know what those? It
is Rochester Career Mentoring something school. I don't know about the last C, but I got 4 out of the 5.
That's not bad.
I'll take it.
Well, when you bring a school with that much tradition into a tournament, it really elevates the stature. So all eyes were on Red Jacket, and really Geneva going into the tournament at 0-6. They go ahead and beat RCMCS 88-84 in a game that Marquand Ross had 33 points and 11 rebounds, not to mention 4 assists, 3 blocks, and 3 steals. And then they come out and they got a rematch against Minders in a non-league game, which that's kind of weird. I would think you'd want to avoid that whenever it happens because they'll play Geneva now 3 times.
Yeah, definitely strange. I know there was one tournament we thought about getting into, but there's somebody else in our league, so I tried to avoid that at all costs. But
it wasn't guaranteed to play, but of course they both won. Geneva beat Red Jacket in the first round, 56-45, 11-point win behind 15 points and 8 rebounds from Ben Cafola. And so they met in the finals, and there was a rematch of the game that was played in Geneva that Minders won, I think, by 4 points, close down the stretch. And this time, Geneva wins by 13, 62-49. Marquand Ross again, 23 points. Minders was led by Liam Kerher with 17. And Verk, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, is that a really bad loss for Minders?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a game. You've talked to Coach Miller a lot. I think he thought his team was going to get better. They got a lot of, they're replacing 99.9% of their scoring from last year. So he's got some athletes. He's got some kids who are going to get better as the year goes on. And it wasn't the first Geneva Minders game was tight, and the Geneva team, they're getting better. And I wasn't shocked that Geneva beat them. I was shocked maybe that it was a 12-point margin. But overall, you got some of these guys. Marquand Ross, he had 34 the one night and comes back against Minders with 23. I think they're a team that's going to they're going to get some wins this year in the Finger Lakes. I wouldn't say they're going to be in the upper echelon with the Palmac, Penn and Newark, but they're gonna definitely get a bunch of wins this year.
Well, Marquand Ross, with those two offensive output games, it was unlike anything Geneva has had so far this year. And, I think Brian Miller thinks he's playing every team that beat him so far in the East again. I think he thinks he can still figure into the league, not only because he thinks his team's getting better, but because the league as a whole maybe not as strong as we thought heading in at the top.
Oh, sure. There's not the dominant teams like a Geneva or Newark from last year. But I haven't seen Geneva personally this year, but right now Penn and Newark and Palmyra, Macedon seem to be the three top tier teams, and and I think was that Palmyra beat Geneva pretty good this year.
Yeah, by over 20.
Yeah, so I think they're going to get better, but I don't know if they're ready to make that step into that the top three.
It could be one of those teams. They're young, get a couple wins. They kind of play some of the teams that are a little down in the league, get some confidence, and then maybe the second time around, give somebody a scare.
Brutal start to the season schedule wise,
yeah.
for Miller. What do you tell your guys if you're 0-6, Zach? I don't think you've ever been in a situation like that since you've been at Lyons, but how do you get?
Not on varsity. Well, I've coached JV every once in a while. We start out that bad. Just got to keep grinding. The hardest thing in that part, if you yell and scream and go crazy, then that affects everybody. So you try to stay as positive as you can, look for things to improve on, and I'm sure the kids from Geneva walked away with a ton more confidence, feeling good about themselves, and maybe excited for the rest of the year.
Well, congratulations to the Panthers on their first two wins and the championship at Red Creek. One other big holiday tournament was in Gananda, and it was kind of a surprise in the finals, or in the consolation, sorry. In the first round, it was School of the Arts beating Gananda 60-50, and it was Greece Odyssey taking out Midlake 68-62, so Midlake's moved to 0-5. And then they faced in the consolation game, the game that we really cared about. In the finals, it was School of the Arts beating Odyssey 67-42. But in the consolation game, Midlake 60, Gananda 57. Brad Doway?
Doway,
26 points for Gananda. And Midlake's led by Kenny DeVay with 16. And you played Midlake, Zach, did you? And you've played Gananda this year so far. So what's your take on this one?
I think I would have picked Gananda at home to win the game. I know the first night that Gananda's point guard didn't play because he was in, I heard, a car accident. I'm not sure if that's right. But then he did play versus Midlakes. So, maybe one of those games. Gananda had a pretty good chance to beat School of the Arts, who was 9-0. Maybe a little bit of a letdown game, maybe just thinking, hey, Midlakes is 0-5. We're going to come in, and Midlakes, if they can make some shots, they're capable, and it seems like they handled the pressure all right. Getting the ball over half court and take care of it, and Kenny's a pretty good player. He's only a junior, and he had double figures versus us, but. I would have thought that they would have had a little bit of an advantage, but credit to Midlakes going on the road and getting the first W for Coach Zerkis, one of my personal buddies.
Yeah, nice to get that first win for Geneva and Midlakes this week. A couple other non-tournament games. Waterloo South Seneca, a game that we were kind of interested in. 59-43, Waterloo wins behind balanced scoring attack. Kyle Bailey had 15. Jonathan Jones had 14. The Sheriff, Nick Stenberg, had 13. And Dikembe Ayers had 11. For South Seneca, it was the great emancipator, Lincoln Backman Lowe. 16 points, 12 rebounds. He's pretty consistent in the double-double category for the Falcons. And Eric Dresser had 9 points and 10 rebounds. And, Zach, you're going to call the game with Brendan Harrington and Tane Robinson, three-man booth for a varsity night doubleheader tomorrow night, Monday. North Rose-Wolcott at Waterloo. And what's your take on this one? Dikembe Ayers is not going to play in that game, by the way, so that should play a factor. But if you're handicapping that game heading in, what do you think?
I think North Rose is playing a little bit better at this point, and I did see him play this summer over in our summer league. Waterloo beat him, and it's a great matchup down low between Stevenson and Deming, who I think are two of the better post players in the league. I think the key for Waterloo will be that they have to shoot the ball well, and they have to answer North Rose guards. And I think Ayers not being able to play will be a factor because he's a pretty good athlete, and I think he could have bothered Tyler Norris a little bit. But Waterloo's a tough place to play, especially for North Rose. Never really played there. It's that big open space gym, and I think it's going to be a good competitive game.
Yeah, speaking of Norris and North Rose, we haven't really had a good look at them yet. I think they're 3-0, and we're talking about them being atop the Wayne County League chase with Lyons, Red Creek. It's looking like, and who knows? Maybe ER, maybe Gananda, maybe Clyde, but it's a pretty balanced league. But we got North Rose near the top, and would you think less of them as a title contender in Wayne County if they lost that game to Waterloo?
Not necessarily less of them. I think it's a good game for them going in. I know they play Red Creek Friday, and it's a step up in competition. I think two of their wins have been against, they beat Marion and they beat Williamson, I think. They were supposed to play Gananda. It got canceled due to a chorus concert or band concert or something. So it's a good step up in competition. I know, talking to Coach Hoyt a couple times, they just want to play some games. They only had 3 games before Christmas, so they get 2 games in this week. And I think if you put Waterloo in Wayne County, that they're in most games. I don't think that it would be an awful loss for North Rose if they lost, and it obviously doesn't count in the standings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think North Rose plays well, and Waterloo plays well. I think North Rose is just a little bit more talented, especially with Ayers out, but should be a good game.
Verk, what is it with Waterloo at 2-4? They got balance. I like all these kids. It seems like they got a lot of interchangeable, guards, and then they got Ben Deming, but they're, they almost beat Minders. They took care of South Seneca here.
Yeah,
but
it just it seems to be something different every game. Deming's really been really inconsistent this year, just from looking at some box scores.
He's been in a lot of foul trouble too. If he's in foul trouble and he has to come out of the game, you look at the Minders game with him off the court. Totally different team.
Right.
So, he needs to get better at that the second half of the season.
I guess it's encouraging when you look at the South Seneca game. Deming's not in the top 4 scorers, and they win pretty handily. So it's good that you got that balance. But he's a kid who he should be good for 20 and 10 every night, I would think. In the Minders game, he came out there in the second quarter for 5 minutes, and Minders kind of built that big lead. Then Waterloo had to crawl back into it all night long. But Waterloo, these kids have been playing. A lot of them have been on varsity for 2-3 years now, and I think they just need to get some wins under the belt and just kind of get a little bit more confident and kind of take that next step.
And they're still on an upswing. All these kids are juniors. Jonathan Jones, a senior, I believe, but and Bailey a junior, Stenberg a junior, Ayers a junior, and Deming a junior. So the core of that team, juniors. Gananda played again this week, beating Sodus. Brad Doway had 16 points there, and that was a 54-37 final. And Sodus now, I think that puts them at 1-4, and they were another team with Ron Derek Morris, who, by the way, emailed us for his T-shirt.
Nice.
His Player of the Week last week. But at 1-4, Zach, are you surprised? I mean, I think you were touting Sodus early on, saying this might be a team to watch.
Their only wins versus us. So.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, again, that was a day you had Hunter out.
Yeah. I still think there's time for Sodus to figure it out. But I was a little surprised by that score. Them only scoring 37 versus Gananda. I thought offensively they'd be able to put together a better game, but they're still young. They're very young. Besides Ron Derek, and Ron Derek hasn't played with them that much. I know they play. I think World of Inquiry this week at home. So they're still a team to me that is scary down the stretch.
And one more game, actually 2 more games that were in tournament games. Geneva lost to School of the Arts 75-62. But School of the Arts 8-0, by the way. They played a lot of games against the Finger Lakes teams. One other game, Penn Yan takes out Bath Haverling at Bath Haverling 64-46. They move to 5-0. Sean Emerson has 19 points. And looking more and more every day like they're the team that's going to be pushing Newark in the East. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, Penn Yan and Palmyra, and I think they're the teams who are going to challenge Newark. Penn Yan beat Bath earlier in the season, so they come back and beat them up pretty good again. And I saw Penn Yan play against Minders, and they're a well-balanced team that the kids seem to play well together. They seem to like each other. I didn't. They're not real big, which obviously that's not their fault. But if there's, but they're tough. They all box out. They're all can shoot the ball. They all take the ball to the hole. I liked what I saw from them when I saw them play against Minders.
And you scrimmaged them, Zach, I think, didn't you?
I scrimmaged Penn Yan, and I've watched Pelmac a couple times. I think that's going to be a fun game. They're both very guard oriented. They have a lot of kids that can take it off the dribble, get to the basket. Not a lot of size, like you said. Both teams play well together, and I think it's just going to be the team that can slow the other one down a little bit in that type of matchup. But those three teams seem to be, the upper crest of the East right now. We do play Palmyra later on in the year, so that'll be a good test for us out of league.
Well, one other note here before we step aside for 30 seconds. Union Springs boys basketball team disbands right before their Cuga tournament. Did you hear about that?
I did. I just saw the article. I didn't understand why they disbanded.
No, they wouldn't say why. They said that they...
Because they're having they're winning some games,
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I talked with a couple coaches down there via text, and they just said they don't know what the deal is. I wish I had some of their players. So I don't know if, you hate to speculate. Was it a hazing thing? Was it a...
Well, it could be anything, yeah.
It could be anything. But it's... The crummy thing about it was it happened at 1 or 2 p.m. before the day of the holiday tournament, so it put other teams that they couldn't play.
Yeah, I think you're going to play 2 games, you got 1.
And everybody else the rest of the year on their schedule is out games. So.
Oh yeah, true. Going forward,
it puts some of those teams in a tough
and
spot.
those are sectional points that you can't get
well,
back.
Right now if they don't find another game, they should get those sectional points. I know that's the way.
It's a forfeit.
I know that's the way it works in Section 5.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's still, you'd like to play the games for sure.
And out of our section and our leagues that we cover, but certainly interesting to see that. That was kind of a shocker out of nowhere. So, as I mentioned, we're going to step aside for about 30 seconds. But when we come back, we're going to have our Players of the Week and our Wayne Finger Lakes Power Rankings and our Girls Super 6 rankings. So hang tight.
Guidance and partnership through every step of the journey. Welcome to Generations Bank.
Good luck to all of our student athletes this high school sports season.
And welcome back inside the FingerLakes1.com studio. Jim Sinicropi up here alongside Matt Verkey and Lyons varsity boys head coach Zac Young. And it's that time of the show, Verk, where we hand out our Player of the Week honors. The Player of the Week wins a FingerLakes1.com t-shirt. And to claim that t-shirt, you do have to email us at upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com with your address and your t-shirt size. Ron Derrick didn't send his zip code, so I'm going to have to do a little more work than I'd hope to get the t-shirt to him. Got to find that soda zip code. But yeah, that's how you do it. So this week, Verk, I'm going to let you lead it off. What do you got?
I got Marquand Ross of Geneva, who just, we already talked about. I had obviously a great tournament, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 3 steals versus RCMCS, and then came back with 23 points in a big victory against Minders. So that was kind of that was an easy pick.
Yeah, and a no-brainer there for sure. And I went with Brad Doway from Gananda, 16 points versus Sodas and 26 in a losing effort versus Mid Lakes. But in a light week, Verk, those numbers stood out, and I hadn't heard much about this kid from Gananda. Yeah, obviously you've seen him play before. What's his game like, Zach?
You can take it to the basket. I talked with Coach Zirkus from Mid Lakes, and he said he made everything versus him in the second game. So I think he made second team All-League last year. Pretty athletic kid.
Well, he's got a T-shirt coming if he's tuning in and wants to email us at upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com. Marquand Ross of Geneva, Brad Delway of Gananda are Upstate Hoops Players of the Week. So now we move it on to the power rankings. Top 10 teams in the Wayne Finger Lakes League, Verk. And also we're going to start weekly our Girls Super 6 power rankings. Why don't we start out with the girls, Verk? Why don't you reveal the inaugural?
All right, and this is obviously we
Super
don't get to
6.
see the girls as much as the boys, but just
Right.
looking at the standings, stuff like that. I think I'll go number one. I got Geneva. I think they're kind of the favorite coming into this year. They returned everybody from a team who really should have won a sectional championship last year. They kind of tossed it away at the end against Wayne. And then probably the surprise team this year in the girls, I would say, is Mid Lakes. I got them at number 2. They're undefeated. They beat Palmac this year. Having a really good season so far. Number 3, I got Wayne. Coming off a sectional title last year, they returned a few of those girls. They've been pretty good last few years. Then 4, Romulus. I don't know. It's tough to judge. I don't know who exactly they played. They were down big to South Seneca and came back and beat them. But when you win 26 games in a row and you're coming off a state championship game, Zoe McDonald puts up. Seems to get like 18, 20 rebounds a game and 10 to 20 points every game.
Rare to see a Class D school here in the top 6 of the leagues.
I think they're they deserve it for their body of work over the last 2 years, and tough to keep them out when they haven't lost a game in a couple of years.
Yep.
And then number 5, I'm going to go with Minders, the team I've seen play a couple times this year. Really on the upswing this year. They've kind of gotten beaten up in the league over the last few years and done well in sectionals though. But this year they've competed with Geneva. They almost beat Palmyra up in Palmyra. So I think they're right there behind Geneva, Mid Lakes, and grouped in with Wayne and that second tier. And then last is Palmac. They're kind of struggling a little bit right now. They haven't been able to pull out any of these close games. But, they got the Vanderwall girl who's obviously maybe the best player in the league probably, so you can never count them out.
All right, Verk, there's our top 6. We got 6 Palmac, 5 Minders, 4 Romulus, 3 Wayne, 2 Mid Lakes, and 1 Geneva. And at the urging of Minders head coach Jerry Anderson, we decided to create this ranking to track the top of the girls. Yeah,
it's it's tough to keep track of everything, but we'll try our best.
Hey, yeah. We got a lot of free time, right?
Yeah.
Boys power rankings. This week's power rankings. Nobody dropped out. We still got 4 from the East, 3 from Wayne County, 3 from the West. Also receiving votes this week, Geneva, Clyde-Savannah, and HAC. And that brings us to the top 10. Dundee at 10. Beat HAC in South Seneca. 9 Minders, they dropped from 8. Dundee was at 10 last week. 9 Minders falls from 8 after beating Red Jacket and losing to Geneva. That moves Marcus Whitman up 1 spot to 8. North Rose-Wolcott falls 1 spot from 6 to 7 without playing. And it was Naples taking their spot, moving up 1 to 6 after beating Early College in Prattsburg this week in Prattsburg. And then we move into the top 5. We have Red Creek at 4-0, the second highest Wayne County team in our rankings, behind Lyons at 4. 4-1, the one loss coming short a few guys, most notably Damon Hunter, starting point guard. They were 4 last week. They hold steady without playing. Palmac at 3, undefeated. 3 last week, didn't play this week. And then we got Penn Yan holding steady at 2. They beat Bath Haverling, stand at 5-0. And then number 1 without playing, we have Newark. They're at 4-1. Their one loss coming to Fayetteville Manlius. And Zach, what do you think about this top 10? Is there anything you'd change?
If I had to change anything, looking at it, I would drop Whitman. I think Dundee and Minders are both better. I think Geneva's better too. No offense to Marcus Whitman.
Yeah, well, that's a tough thing, and we talk. That's one of the things that was talked about is Geneva's 2-6, but you really kind of feel like they might be a top 10 team, but do you deserve to put them in there? And obviously, the voters decided no.
I think you got to look at who would win head to head. Sometimes you got to think about Geneva obviously and Marcus Whitman play very different schedules. You throw Marcus Whitman against Geneva's schedule, they might not have a win. In reality, so it's tough.
Yeah, so it's tough to have like Minders 9 when they just lost to Geneva, but body of work at this point. Minders I think is 5-2. Is that right? 5-2. And they did pick up a win over Red Jacket, but they did drop one spot. So Newark's still number 1. What's your take on the top, Zach? Palmac, Penyan, and Newark. Do we got those guys ranked appropriately at the top?
I think it's the same as us, Red Creek and North Rose. Nobody's really played each other yet. Everyone's won a lot of the games they're supposed to. I haven't really got a chance to watch Newark play, so I guess I will have to not comment on that. But Tyler Collins is pretty darn good.
Yeah. And
I watched this highlight thing he put together. That was pretty impressive. He's a good player. And I think I've watched Penyan play, and we scrimmaged him obviously, and I've watched Palmyra play. I think that's going to be a really good game.
Yeah.
I just haven't got to see Newark in person yet either.
Now, you like it when the league's balanced like this, or does it kind of scare you a little bit? Because you look at your schedule and you could literally say, "Geez, if we don't play well, we could lose 4 or 5 in a row. I can also win 4 or 5 in a row."
Do I like it? It's more challenging.
Right.
I think that the kids are more engaged when all your games are competitive. I've had a season or two where, 2 years ago it was pretty much us and Clyde, and we could coast through some games. It wasn't, you didn't think the kids always played up to it, but I think our kids realize, that really there's not a lot of nights off in our league, and it's you gotta come prepared, and if you drop one that you're supposed to, or it's going to hurt you. We dropped one already. Obviously, we were missing some guys, but that's going to be a major factor for the league chase if we're unsuccessful.
So, Verk, we talked about the North Rose-Waterloo webcast on Monday night, but before we're back up here in studio for the next episode of Upstate Hoops, we have a second webcast on Friday night from the Atwood Gymnasium. It's Lyons hosting Clyde-Savannah from the Atwood, the historic Atwood, and they said it couldn't be done, but we're going to do it, and you're going to be there with Dave Barnick to call it.
Yeah, that should be fun. A lot of memories of that gym, from attending Lions games over the years. But
when your dad coached, right?
Yeah. Just spent a lot of time over there.
It was asphalt back then, wasn't it?
It was like cement at one point, I think.
Yeah.
it wasn't good, but. It's a great home court, I think. I've always I like that gym just like I like Minders gym. I think it's a good home court when it's packed at Minders and loud, and same at Lyons. Small, but it can get really loud, and you tend to see the same people in the crowd a lot. They've been there the last 25 years, so it's always a fun place to go. And Lyons Clyde, it doesn't really get any better than that. And but it should be a great matchup. Clyde should be at full strength. Lyons should be at full strength, hopefully. So. It should be a little interesting. Michael Turner's going to be back for Clyde, and they got a young freshman in Derek Chance who's looking to make some noise. So it's
for my money, it's the best rivalry around our area. It's I know Waterloo Minders. Growing up, I was a part of that. But just being able to coach there in Lyons and some awesome games versus Clyde over the last couple of years, it's a wild environment. The kids really, really look forward to it. It's a difficult game sometimes for them to play in, just because emotions sometimes run so high. The football game this year, if I know some people out there who are watching are probably, it was one of the best high school football games of the year, Lyons Clyde. A lot of the kids know each other. They want that bragging right. They want to be able to say they won that game. And I know on our goals that was one of the kids put it above sectionals almost on his sheet.
Really?
He wanted to beat Clyde. He hasn't been able to beat Clyde. He lost to him in football in 2 years, and we got swept by him last year. So he really wanted to get that win. So it'll be a fun environment. I'm not sure if it's going to be as packed as normal with the kids being out on break. It's a little bit of a scheduling quirk, but I'm sure most of them will get the memo that
there might be some people in town too that normally
True.
wouldn't be.
When the college kids are home, a lot of people will come to that game as well. So,
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's on a Friday. Sometimes we played on a Tuesday or Thursday, but the
True.
Friday night game does well, and I hope everybody buys a lot of concessions because that's my biggest fundraiser of the year. So
The
come on out and
Clyde home game.
I'll
buy
get
some
some
pizza and water and Gatorade.
And if you can't make it, of course, you tune in Finger Lakes One Sports. You got Barnick and Verkey on the call.
Yeah, and I agree with Zach. It's the best rivalry going in this area, I think, for high school sports. Just given that they've both been good. I don't know when the last time Waterloo boys beat the Minders boys was. Off the top of my head, been a few years, I think. But Lyons and Clyde, especially last 3-4 years.
Last year, Clyde won the title. 2 years ago, Lyons won the title. The
Yep.
league title. So yeah, it's basically been trading hands between those two schools for decades, and yeah, we love it. We've always done Lyons at Clyde because we were a little leery of the Atwood. It's a tight environment, less room for us to operate, and but we think we got figured out thanks to athletic director Steve Veter, who was really cooperative and excited that we're coming. So that's Friday night. And then, Zach, like I said, tomorrow night you'll be with Tanya Robinson and Brendan Harrington in Waterloo for a boys-girls varsity doubleheader. North Rose-Wolcott Cougars against the Waterloo Indians. So take a quick look at the week ahead before we head out of here. We've got Monday, tomorrow night, North Rose at Waterloo, as I mentioned. 6 p.m. on Finger Lakes One Sports is the girls' game. 7:30 is the boys' game. And we also have Mac, Wayne, and Clyde-Savannah playing at the Wayne tournament along with College Prep. And that's a really good grouping there. Another chance where maybe Wayne ends up playing a league mate in Palmyra-Macedon. But really good tournament there. Penn is at the Honeoye Falls Lima tournament. I believe they play Livonia, which we're talking about them in Newark. Newark beat Livonia pretty handily, so now we'll see how Penn fares against the Bulldogs in Honeoye Falls. Newark is playing at the Rush Henrietta tournament against Jamestown, and credit to Newark, they're not afraid to go anywhere. They play Fayetteville, Manlius, and now they're heading up to Rochester or Rush Henrietta to play some of these city schools to the east and the west. And as Zach mentioned earlier, World of Inquiries at Sodas at 6 o'clock on Tuesday. And then we got the New Year's holiday. Then Friday night, Clyde-Savannah at Lyons, 7:30 p.m. on Finger Lakes One Sports. Marion's at Sodas at 7 o'clock. And then a really good game Friday night opposite the Clyde Lyons game. It's North Rose-Wolcott at Red Creek. And both will be undefeated in the league when they meet there. So,
Yeah, first place is on the line.
yeah, early in the season, that will be the first games of 2015. And then on Saturday we have Mid-Lakes at Livonia, 7:30 p.m. And also should mention the nice tournament in Canandaigua. Victor plays in that one, and I kind of miss those guys being in the Finger Lakes leagues. But good, nice little rivalry they have amongst each other. But they really neither one competes in their Monroe County League.
It was their choice.
Yeah, yep. Well, hey, Zach, thanks for sitting in with us. Always great when we can get you up here. A lot of great insight, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night calling the game behind the mic, and then Friday night coaching. So thanks.
Does it all.
He does. Versatile.
I was going to go to the North Rose game anyway. Might as well talk a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you'll really enjoy calling the game with Brendan Harrington and Tane. It should be a good crew. I know I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for joining us on the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher.com. Have a great week. Happy New Year, and we'll see you back here next Sunday night at 9 o'clock for the first show of 2015.